All right. Can you guys hear me? Hear me, hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay.
That should fix it, I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yes, perfect. Thank you very much. Awesome. Yay! Beautiful. So sorry about that, guys. It looks like we might be a little bit delayed on my screen here. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's going to be delayed, but that's okay. We will answer some questions. Awesome. Well, welcome in everybody to our live stream. We're so excited to be sitting here chatting a little bit about Via, our about 5-week-old baby bald eagle. It looks like she's waking up from a nap right now and is starting to stretch her wings out, and we are going to answer some questions. Anything you guys want to know about her development, about how she got here in the first place, her plan here at the Raptor Center, and hopefully we will get some good questions in. Let's see here. All right, so go ahead and start asking some questions in the chat. Feel free to fire away. I'd love to answer anything. Hello, everybody. Happy 4th. Yes, happy almost 4th of July. Very exciting. M2S says, tell us about eagles. That is our plan today. I could really talk about them all day, so we are excited to be here. All right. Any questions? Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and get started a little bit about her story, how she actually got here to us, and once I see some questions rolling in, we'll answer those as we go. So again, hi everybody, my name is Sophie. I'm one of the avian care specialists here at the center. A few weeks back, we got a call about a baby bald eagle that was found outside of the nest in Gustavus, Alaska. We had a rescuer. Her name was Ellie. I think she's watching today. Hi, Ellie. Thank you so much for helping us facilitate Via's rescue. We are very, very happy to have her. And it's been very exciting to see her grow and progress and gain so much weight and eat so much every single day. We're very excited to see that progress. But so Ellie gave us a call and she said, hey, I am walking this trail that I walk almost every single day near my house, and all of a sudden I looked off to my right and I saw a tiny little baby eaglet sitting in a nice beautiful pillow of moss.
We just got a call that the eagle from Petersburg is at the airport.
And sorry about that, we had a little bit of a radio call there. So she noticed that this baby was all alone, and obviously a baby that little is not supposed to be out of the nest yet. And so she immediately knew that she had to contact someone, and we were the closest Raptor Center to her and to Gustavus in general. So she gave us a call, I picked up the phone, and we started figuring out a game plan. Ellie had noticed that the nearest nest was about a 1/4 mile to 1/8 of a mile away, but it was seemingly abandoned. There wasn't really any activity in that nest. And when a parent, when a male and female have an active nest, you absolutely know it, because you can, see the mutes around the nest or their feces. You can see and hear them typically. And so for the most part, we knew that that nest was not a viable option for Via to go back to. Let me see. Looks like we're getting some poor connection here. One moment. Should I just, okay. And so Ellie knew that this bird needed help. And so again, thank you for that. She called us, and because the nearest eagle nest was seemingly empty, we knew that Via had to come to us. And so we facilitated a flight over to us here at the Raptor Center, and got her packaged up, sent over to us, got her that night. And ever since then, she's been doing super, super well. She's, again, about 5 weeks old. She was maybe 3 to 4 weeks old when she came in originally. And of course, that is much too little for her to be out of the nest. And we think, it's hard to tell exactly what happened. Of course, no one was there to see it. But because Via was so far away from that nest, we think that maybe a predator of some sorts, came and picked her up when mom and dad weren't around, and just for some reason ended up dropping her. But really luckily, she ended up being really healthy physically. a lot of times when we have babies falling out of the nest at this young of age, when their bones are still growing, they're still kind of malleable, they're really, really fragile, we worry about broken wings. We often see broken wings and broken legs. And we brought Via in, triaged, and she looked phenomenal on x-ray. She really did not have any issues besides being a little dehydrated, a little lethargic, because again, we don't know how long she had been out of that nest away from mom and dad. But she was in pretty good shape when she came in, and we were really excited to see those x-rays show no fractures whatsoever, and we were excited to kind of create that game plan for her. All right, let's answer some questions. We got some good ones rolling in. Is working with raptors intimidating? Is it sometimes scary when they're perched on your arm? 20 team player says. Absolutely, that can be intimidating, especially bald eagles. Working with eagles can be kind of hard to get into because they're very smart. They absolutely can sense when you feel uneasy or when you are feeling a little afraid. So you really have to kind of put on a little bit of a facade when you start working with eagles to let them know that you're feeling, even if it's faked, that you're feeling confident. But soon you get over that, especially once you get to know the birds that you consistently work with. And so it can be a little intimidating, but I absolutely recommend it if that's something that you're interested in. You know, go volunteer at a local nature center that might have birds of prey as ambassador animals, or work at your local rehab center. Just kind of get introduced to that. I got some other ones up here. Is there much of a size difference between adults as there is in peregrine falcons? In terms of when, so right now, Via is much larger than a peregrine falcon, than an adult peregrine falcon. Via right now is about 2,800 grams, so we're looking at about a little over 5-ish pounds, or about 6 pounds. And so we are absolutely much larger than a peregrine falcon. And Via will reach her adult age here probably within about 9 to 10 weeks old. She'll be at her full adult weight. So she's getting very close. She's about 6 weeks old right now, about 5 weeks, excuse me. What might cause adult eagles to seemingly abandon the baby? Grace Walker says. So it's really hard to say because Via's situation was very filled with a lot of gray area. We just found her, or the rescuer had found her in this pillow of moss. And again, that nearest nest site was seemingly empty. Because of course, our first priority is if we find a baby out of the nest, can we reunite that baby with its parents and just put him back in the nest? It is a common myth that if you touch a baby bird, that mom will reject it. In fact, that is not true. Some species can be a little bit more sensitive to that, but for the most part, the biggest thing that you want to do when you find a baby is to try and reunite it with parents and put it in that nest. Because there was no nest in sight, it's really important to get her urgent care because these guys need to be fed pretty constantly, and we want to make sure that she didn't decline any more than she potentially was going to, because at that time, again, we didn't know what state she was in. If she had fractures, we didn't know if she was severely dehydrated, we didn't know how long she'd been away from mom and dad. And so we really wanted to make sure to get that quick help. When it comes to whether or not mom or dad had abandoned her, I really don't know if that was the case, because I do think she probably was picked up by something and dropped by a different predator. That could have been, you know, there's a lot of things that will eat a baby eagle, great horned owls, other birds of prey. And so when it comes to whether or not mom or dad would abandon, I don't necessarily think that was the case with Via, but in general, you know, mom and dad have that ability to tell if a baby is sick, and if those resources aren't available to be able to care for that baby, they will absolutely decide to take care of the stronger of that brood. So typically we see that they have about 2 babies, sometimes 3 per nest. And there actually has even been some research that says if there's not enough food in the area to feed all, let's say there's 2 babies, they will pick the stronger of the 2 and they will kind of neglect that other, and nature will take its course. Let's see. When will you be able to determine her gender? Does it all have to do with foot size? A little bit, Ellie. So, oh, hi, Ellie. So when it comes to determining her gender, like I said prior, she's going to be at her full adult weight, probably here within at about 9 to 10 weeks. And so we will really be able to see whether or not we think she's a male or female. Us just looking at her, we say her. I interchange it, her and him, because again, right now we don't know. But yes, we do use foot size to help us be able to tell, but we're also mainly looking at weight. A lot of times the females will have those larger, like really quite a bit larger feet, and that's just a good visual thing to look at and say, okay, maybe we are a female. But we will absolutely kind of coincide that with her weight. So we weigh her every single morning before we do her first feeding. 8:30 a.m. we go in and we feed and we weigh, because right now we want to make sure we're feeding about 20 to 25% of her body weight and 3 to 4 feedings per day. Right now we're doing 3 feedings, and from there we'll be able to determine if she's male or female. So hopefully by 9 to 10 weeks we'll understand. Can I donate for the care of the baby? Absolutely, you guys can. So if you guys are interested in donating to Via's care, you guys can donate directly to our rehab sort of sector here at the center, and that money will be used to get her food. She is eating a lot of mice, rats, baby chicks. She's eating a lot of quail, a lot of red meat, and then we're also going in with quite a bit of salmon as well. So she is eating a lot of food every single day. She's right now feeding about 200 grams of food 3 times a day. So you can imagine how much food that is. And we are absolutely taking donations. If you guys are interested, you guys can go to our website, and all you do is when you go to donate, just specify you want this for the rehab sector, and we will make sure that all gets funneled into that. Let's see. Does she have a favorite food? Yes, she does. These babies can be very picky, and we have noticed that if it were up to Via, she would probably just eat all the rat and mice in the world. She really prefers red meat over her salmon, but we really need to make sure that she's eating her vegetables, so to speak. So we do have to make sure she's getting in that salmon, because southeastern or bald eagles in southeastern Alaska, a really big portion of their diet is going to be freshwater fish like salmon or herring. And of course that's going to depend geographically where they're found, because, you know, an eagle in Colorado is not necessarily going to eat, you know, salmon as a bulk of their diet. But southeast Alaskan bald eagles eat a lot of salmon, so we do try and make sure she gets her salmon in. But she loves the red meat. She loves the rat, mouse, quail, chicks, you name it, she'll eat it. Let's see. Any other questions? And it looks like Via is showing you guys a good example of her preening right now, which is great. You can tell even at a young age, she knows she has to start kind of taking care of her feathers. This is just an instinctual thing that she's doing. Of course, she doesn't have mom or dad in front of her doing it, but it's instinctual. She knows that she's preening away those baby downy feathers. She's kind of breaking up all of those pin feathers that are coming in that are probably a little itchy, so she's working her beak through and getting those nice and set where she wants them to be. Survival of the fittest, that's right. Alrighty. Do the babies start off eating regurgitated food or straight meat? So when it comes to what these guys are eating, so as soon as they hatch, mom will start feeding tiny bits of food. It's not necessarily regurgitated, but there have been studies that show mom will pair it with these nasal secretions to kind of help lubricate the food and help the baby swallow it. So she's feeding tiny little tidbits of red meat, salmon, whatever it may be in the nest at the time, and whatever she brings over for that baby. And she is supplementing that with it's basically like the equivalent of saliva. Bald eagles and birds of prey in general will kind of create these nasal secretions to help themselves swallow. So when she's bending over and she's feeding that baby, the nasal secretions will actually drip out of her nose and go into that food to help that baby swallow. But it's also interesting because it goes into different hunting niches between male and female. When those babies are tiny, dad's going to be the one who's going to go out and get those smaller prey items, because of course dad's the smaller compared to the female. And then when those eaglets are getting a lot larger and they need more calories to keep growing, that's when mom goes out and she gets the bigger ticket items to make sure those babies are getting the calories that they need. 20 Team Player says, are bald eagles social creatures? Will there be noticeable behavior changes from growing with the standing, or is it growing with the standing, or is the majority of it instinctual? It's kind of a mixture of both. Bald eagles, they're not necessarily social. They're in fact kind of the opposite. They're very solitary. But what happens is when these babies are in the nest, when the bald eagles are in the nest, they are looking at mom and dad, and they are imprinting on them. So they're not just imprinting on mom and dad, but they're imprinting on their siblings, they're imprinting on their surroundings, and they're taking all of these visual and auditory cues to form their perception of what they are. And so in that way, they are looking at mom and dad, they are looking at siblings to say, okay, this is what I am, this is how I sound, this is what my prey items will be, this is how I rip into a piece of salmon, etc. And so in that way, she is definitely taking a lot of these auditory and visual cues where she is now, which is in our Bald Eagle Flight Training Center. And she can see these adult bald eagles in front of her flying, calling out, doing their territorial cackles, and all of that is extremely important when it comes to her development. And so in that way, she is absolutely learning from them. But there is a lot that is instinctual, and you can see it with her preening and her kind of investigating her nest area and things like that. So it's a mixture of both. And when those babies fledge at about 12 weeks of age, when an eagle leaves the nest, they will stick around the nest site for maybe within the first like mile or two away from the nest. They'll kind of stay in that area. And if there's a sibling that's younger than them and is still in that nest tree, they will kind of visit that area to get supplemental food and again to visit mom and dad, and through that they're learning by watching. But for the most part, once they are really away from the nest and completely on their own, they don't really have any sort of support from mom and dad. They're learning by watching other eagles and by trial and error. That was kind of a long answer, but yes. Can I have a pet bald eagle? Unfortunately, you cannot. That is illegal. The Migratory Bird Act, the Bald Eagle Act, and the Lacey Act all protect our bald eagles very heavily. It's a really good example of what conservation education can do with protective legislature, getting these guys protected. So it is illegal, and you don't want them to be. I guess you guys can probably see some bruises on my arm here. I'm currently training one of our eagles, and she's in a very broody mood. It's her breeding season. She's a little bit more territorial, a little bit aggressive. They do not make good pets. They're wild animals through and through. Nasal secretions, amazing, thank you, no problem. It is cool. Does this baby sleep in the flight training center? Sphinx00 says. No, she does not. So at night, we put her inside of a nice, quiet, dark area in a secured kennel. And in there, she has, again, another makeshift nest. Her mom puppet comes in there with her at night, and that's where she spends the night. Grace Walker says, do the adult eagles at the center interact with her at all? Not really, which is great. That is exactly what we want. We want her to be able to see them fly, preen, bathe, all that good stuff. We want her to be able to hear them, but we don't really want them interacting with her, and they do a great job at that. They really kind of are saying, that's not my baby, not my problem, and are taking care of themselves. Those eagles in there, you know, we feed them quite a bit of food, and so there's no sort of interacting with each other at all, honestly, and that's great, because again, when eagles are interacting, it's for mating or it's for territorial disputes, so it's not usually a good situation, and so for the most part, they leave her alone, which is great. I wonder how eagles evolved. What were their ancestors like? I think we are probably have we, Richard? I'm going to ask someone real quick. Have we done a live stream recently about our dinosaur sort of lineage when it comes to birds? No.
Yeah,
okay, so we... Okay.
Been, I think, 2 years.
2 years? So we should do that soon. Well, we can do a whole live stream about this. But in a very short answer for a very complex story, we do know that birds evolved from dinosaurs. And we know that their earliest... Oh, sorry, I got distracted. She's flapping her wings. We know that Archaeopteryx, which is one of the earliest bird, kind of dinosaur bird-like specimens, tells us a lot about how feathers evolved, and that birds came from dinosaurs in the first place. So we can absolutely do a live stream about that. I think that'd be really interesting. It's definitely a long story, but what were their ancestors like? Very dinosaur-like. There's different theories as to why birds evolved feathers in the first place, whether it was to get away from other predators. There's kind of called the tree down approach or the tree up approach, or theory, and whether or not that was for getting away from predators or if it was for mating purposes, things like that. There's different theories out there, and both are pretty supported, but we can go into that in another live stream. Let's see. Are you all a 501c3? What's your website? So yes, we are a 501c nonprofit, meaning all of our support comes from you guys. It comes from members, the people that adopt a bird and become members here at the center, and from visitors that come to see us every single day. Our website is the AlaskaRaptorCenter.org. Head on over there if you're interested in donating. Again, you can specify that you want this for the rehab sector of things, and we will absolutely make sure that that gets to all of our rehab birds. I've always loved raptors. Does the center ever get harpies in? I think they're absolutely magnificent. They are cool. Harpy eagles are just crazy to look at, in my opinion. We do not know. We don't have those in our area. But that would be cool. They're pretty massive. Okay, well, I think that is it for our live stream today. Thank you guys so much for joining. And again, if you're interested in donating or looking into us a little bit more, the AlaskaRaptorCenter.org is the place you want to go. And follow us on any social media. We have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. We're very active on all of it. YouTube here, we're also very active, especially with our YouTube shorts. And follow us, and we do little videos here and there, and we'll absolutely be updating Via as she grows and filling you guys in on her progress here at the Raptor Center. So thank you guys so much for joining us today, and if you're interested in any other topics, feel free to leave suggestions. But from here, we will go ahead and leave you guys. So thank you so much. Bye-bye. Perfect.